stand in hiding. Yesterday, as he left the House, he's challenged me to have more of these debates, and now he won't even get out of his seat and answer my questions. And we know why. He's afraid. He's afraid to defend not only his first carbon tax, which he admits will increase the price of gas by 41 cents a litre at thousands of dollars of net cost per family, but now he's got carbon tax 2, a second tax with no rebate that will increase food, heat, and gas prices even further. How much will the second carbon tax increase the cost of gas on hardworking Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So now we have the Premier, the Conservative Premier of New Brunswick, at the request of one of the Conservative member that has asked the federal government to put in place our carbon pricing system. We have a number of members, Conservative members, who have argued in favour of carbon pricing, Mr. Speaker. We have all of the provinces and all of the territories in Canada that have put in place carbon pricing in Canada, and while we've done that, we've increased jobs in Canada, we've increased economic development, and we've reduced our pollution by more than 50 million tonnes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The question, the Prime Minister was too afraid to stand up and answer it and debate me. The question was about the cost of the second carbon tax. We know that the Prime Minister's first carbon tax will cost 41 cents a litre at a net cost to average families of over $1,500. But that's not enough for him. He wants a second carbon tax, which will add even more costs without any rebate at all. We know that he told falsehoods about the first tax. Will he finally have the guts to stand up and tell us how much his second tax will cost Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you'll allow me, I will read from the Conservative Party of Canada's election platform from the last election, the platform that this party stood and spoke to Canadians about. And I'm quoting from page 78, Mr. Speaker. Our plan will ensure that all Canadians do their part.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm starting to hear chatter again. I'm having a hard time hearing the answer, and it's coming from a certain point. I'm sure they don't want the next question to be swapped with the last one and have someone very special to them.
Right here. It was coming equally from that side as from this side.
The Honourable Member for Lethbridge, apologize, please. Apologize to the Chair for interrupting.
You won't be speaking again.
Chair, I apologize for interrupting.
Very good, thank you. Now, I want to remind all of you to have some respect for this chamber. That includes the Honourable Member for Timmins James Bay. No, I don't want to hear. No, I'm not. I just want to say I hear his chattering throughout. I just want to ask him to keep it down and stop, please. Now, we'll go back to the Minister from the top, and I want to see everything calm down. The Honourable Minister, please.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition and many members across have called me woke before. And if woke means standing up for the future of my children and grandchildren so that they have access to clean air and clean water, then so be it, Mr. Speaker. If woke means standing up to create jobs for generations of Canadians and investing in a clean economy, then so be it, Mr. Speaker. And if woke means standing up for the rights of women to choose, then so be it, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
He's woke, and so Canadians are broke, Mr. Speaker. And I'll tell you what woke means in practice. I'll tell you what woke means in practice. His government approved dumping millions of litres of raw sewage into the St. Lawrence River. That's what woke means. Woke means charging a single mom higher costs to drive to work and feed her kids while the Prime Minister jets around using Canadian tax dollars pumping emissions into our atmosphere. That is the woke hypocrisy across the way. And if he's got the guts to tell the truth, will he tell us how much will carbon tax 2 cost Canadians?
The Honourable Minister for Families.
Mr. Speaker, what's exceptionally disappointing from the Leader of the Opposition is that at a time when families in Alberta are experiencing some of the worst wildfires in their history, he's railing against policies that are helping to fight climate change. Mr. Speaker, when he talks about that single mom, unfortunately, he has opposed sending her the Canada Child Benefit, which has put thousands of dollars in her pocket. And he's also opposed the child care agreements that are supporting families across this country save thousands of dollars. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the environment, when it comes to supporting families, we know where the Leader of the Opposition.
The Honourable. No.
Mr. Speaker, this past month, a constituent's bill for natural gas was $168.50. The federal carbon tax was $30.78. This is more than the individual charges for delivery, transportation costs, and HST. Under this government, it's evident that life costs more for Canadians with the rising costs of gas, heat, and food. How are regular Canadians supposed to keep up? Mr. Speaker, when will this Prime Minister get rid of the carbon tax and prioritize the financial needs of Canadians?
Hear, hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member opposite for that question because it gives me an opportunity again to talk a bit about how carbon pricing works. And let's be clear that the way that carbon pricing works is that every bit of that money that comes to through the carbon price is returned to the province. That is to the families in the province, as well as to the hospitals, the schools, and the cities in the province of Ontario. Every penny goes back, supports people in her community. We as a government are, in addition, providing supports to Canadians, be it through the dental benefits, be it through childcare, be it through the child benefit. We are there to support Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Rocky Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, the cost of government is driving up the cost of living, and now the Liberals plan a 41-cent a litre tax on gas, groceries, and home heating. Liberal deficits are driving up inflation, which means higher interest rates, which make mortgages more expensive and harder to qualify for. Prices have doubled, down payments have doubled, rents have doubled, and new housing construction is falling because of high interest rates and red tape. When will this government stop increasing taxes, stop its inflationary deficit, and let the builders build?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Speaker, it's a little hard to take Conservatives seriously when they talk about affordability, when we have several affordability measures that are in front of the Finance Committee right now, and instead of talking about those measures, they've turned them away. They've been filibustering for 23 hours. Food banks were scheduled to visit us. We wanted to hear from them. The Bloc wanted to hear from them. The NDP wanted to hear from them. The Cons, they wanted to talk to themselves. Stop the filibuster, let's get to work.
There you go. The Honourable Member for Langley Aldergrove.
This Prime Minister's tax and spend policies are driving up the cost of everything, and now he has plans to push the tax on gas to 41 cents a litre. What happened to his promises to help the middle class? Like Brandon from Langley, who wrote to me recently, I am one of many middle-class citizens getting pushed down to the lower class. So here's my question for the Prime Minister. Will he reverse course? Will he stop the never-ending tax increases and finally stand up for the middle class?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, there's one thing that we know for certain. When it comes to Canadians, Conservatives will always hold them back. They voted against the CCB, they voted against dental care, they voted against rental supports, they voted against everything, including childcare at a certain point, Mr. Speaker. They tore up the agreements from the previous government when we were in power. Mr. Speaker, what we know about Conservatives is during their time, 2.7 million more Canadians were in poverty than they are today. We have 450,000 more children out of poverty today than when they were in power. Mr. Speaker, they keep holding Canadians back. We're lifting them up.
Bravo.
The Honourable Member for Montmagny-Lillette, Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Mr. Speaker, Canadians can't take it anymore. We've said it again and again in every way. But this Prime Minister, what's he doing? Well, he plans to further increase the carbon tax, which, contrary to what he says, will have consequences everywhere in Canada and especially in Quebec. Now, everyone will be impacted by this. Farmers and truckers will have to pay even higher costs, which means that all Canadians at the end of the day will have to pay the price and pay more. So will this Prime Minister wake up and drop his disastrous policies? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I can reassure my colleague across the way that our government has not stopped working tirelessly and relentlessly to help Canadians. Mr. Speaker, as you know, in the 2023 budget, we have measures to tax the wealthiest Canadians. We are moving ahead with our 2% stock buyback tax and taxing dividends. Mr. Speaker, we are ready to do all that. And what are the Conservatives doing? Well, they're blocking, obstructing, filibustering. Mr. Speaker, I encourage my colleagues to get to work.